Hi everybody, this is Sana, your Galvanize GRE expert, and today we have with us Sahil, who will also be talking about how you can get to a 330 GRE score. So as the title suggests, obviously the webinar is going to be all about getting to a 330 plus score. Now, the reason we asked you for when you're planning to apply is because we wanted to get an idea of how much time you have left before you have to give the GRE. Now, on your screens, you can see a student, Dhairya Agarwal, who scored a 334, right? And he managed to score a 334 in just 30 days, in less than 45 days, actually. And if you read what's on your screens now, you will see that he improved his score in verbal from 152 to 165 and in quant from 162 to 169 in only 20 days. This is basically just to give you some inspiration and to let you know that anything is possible provided you really put your mind to it and go about it the right way, right? Now let's jump right in and get started. So obviously the reason we're all here is because we all want a 330 plus, right? You want to get into the most prestigious universities in the world and you want everybody to be jealous of that, right? You also maybe perhaps want to get a scholarship and make your parents extremely proud.
You are afraid it will seem impossible, too big and crazy. You are afraid because you don't know where to begin. You don't know how to go from where you want to go and how you want to go. You don't know how to get there and here.
Now, just like eating a large pizza, guys, you don't do this in one bite. Now, dominating the GRE is a journey you take one step at a time. Why is this? The GRE is an exam that is a test of skills as opposed to a test of knowledge. Basically, regular practice is essential to success on the GRE.
And the second thing is considering that we all have other things to focus on. It is natural for GRE preparation to take a backseat. Therefore, it becomes crucial to plan your GRE prep time so that you accommodate enough time for practice in your busy schedule.
All right. Now let's talk a little bit about study plans, right? The best study plan, guys, is the one that works for you. It should take into account your strengths and weaknesses, and the plan should be viable so that it will help you maximize your score given the limited amount of time you have, right?
There is a lot of advice online about how to get creating plans. But the hardest part with the prepping a study plan is actually following the plan. You need to commit yourself to it and try to keep it as much as possible with the plan. It is not for the weak-hearted or not for those who are not determined. But if you are confident enough to unleash your potential and score the highest score your friends have ever heard, this webinar is absolutely useful for you.
You need to understand what a 330 plus GRE score really means, right? You need to know that a 330 plus is usually the 98th percentile of all GRE scores. This basically means that only 2% of all test takers in the world get a score of 330 plus. That's how difficult it is.
So what this means is if you need to score a 330 plus on the GRE, you have done a tremendous amount of work to get there, especially since scoring that high is pretty rare. It also means you are better than 98% of the people who took the test along with you. And this statistics alone is good enough for many top schools to consider you to welcoming in this class. That's why it is rare that a person with a 330 plus score doesn't get into a top 100 MS university.
Speaking of top universities, which university are you targeting? Let us know by dropping it in the chat box. So are you targeting maybe MIT, Stanford? Okay, Anjanai says Stanford, wow. Are there any of you that are looking at Carnegie Mellon, Purdue, Kennedy School, Essex? Wow, okay, I see a lot. UT Austin, Cornell. Okay, a lot of really good universities coming in, and you absolutely need a 330 score for these universities. So I'm not surprised. Him Chandra says Columbia. Wow. Okay, so now that we've covered what it means to get a 330 and that all of you are targeting really top-notch universities, let's take a quick look at what it will require to get a 330 plus score, right? Now, there are three things you can see on your screen. Let's talk about the first, which is knowledge. Now, as you might expect, obviously it's an exam. So you do need to have some basic knowledge, which is the most important aspect of your GRE prep. So there are many things that you need to learn, such as basic grammar rules. You need to know math formula. You need to have some knowledge of advanced concepts as well, okay, on the subjects that the GRE will test you on. And last but not the least, perhaps most importantly for all of you, you need to know the vocabulary that the GRE very much likes to test you on.
Thanks, Anna. Knowledge is something that anyone can easily attain if they are determined to work hard. So, guys, work hard so that your knowledge will get improved. In fact, most of these concepts are one of that you might learn in the school also. So, it might even be easy for some test takers to get a hang of all the math and verbal concepts. But for those of the test taking multitude who needs to lost touch with these concepts, it might seem a little difficult to cope with the syllabus and variety of concepts that they need to master. But having said that, it is not as difficult it seems either. If you can buckle down for a few weeks and learn each and every concept with proper understanding, it will be an easy journey for you. You will need to equip yourself only in a better basic knowledge. The rest is all matters of honing your skills.
You're absolutely right, Sahil. The GRE does test you on topics that most of you would have learned in high school. So you just need to brush up on what you learned, right? But more importantly, in addition to knowledge, you need certain other things, right? Let's take a look at that. Now, the second thing you need are skills. But what skills are we talking about? There are some very specific skills that the GRE requires you to master. And if you are looking to score 330 plus on the GRE, you should definitely learn them all. Now, some of the important skills that you will need to possess are, you need to have reading skills, guys. You need to be able to do logical reasoning. You need to have the ability to extract information and data from math questions, because I'm sure you're aware that a lot of math questions tend to be extremely long and they tend to have, extremely hard vocabulary. So you need to be able to understand the question. You need to have data interpretation skills, obviously. You need to know the process of elimination, the process of back substitution, etc.
Learning these skills is not that difficult, and chances are you have already learned most of them by now through coursework during undergrad or high school. All it takes is to remember all those strategies and techniques you have learned in the past, like in your schools, in your colleges, and then implement them in solving tough questions.
Okay. Now the third thing that you need for a 330 plus is the right strategies, right? Now, the GRE is not your usual college exam. It is a test that requires some very well planned strategies and solving techniques, which you will definitely need to learn to master. Now, some of these strategies include educated guessing. You need to know which questions to prioritize, which questions to leave for the end, how to perfectly manage your time, and most importantly, guys, how to build your mental stamina to last 4 hours of the exam, right? Because the GRE is a very long exam. It is 4 hours. So you need to have the mental stamina to be able to write this exam.
Now, guys, you don't expect to get away with only one or two of these three strategies. A great score on the GRE always demands that you master all the three skills, since no two skills can separately get you there. For example, you can never do very well in RC unless purely based on strategy, because strategy is the main thing to get your goal. Since you have the knowledge, good vocabulary, and horn reading skill to understand the passages. The same thing applies if you don't know the formula to a questions on arithmetic. And if you have mastered the knowledge and concepts for the GRE and have the sufficient skills, it still doesn't mean you are really well, since you need to learn to manage your pace throughout the test and not end up unsatisfied questions at the end of the section. So you need to make sure you really master all the three aspects. I repeat, the three aspects are knowledge, strategies, and skills.
Wonderful. Sorry. We have a question from Suteja who wants to know what is the perfect time to attempt the GRE exam in engineering. Now, Suteja, we generally recommend that you do it either in your second or third year. And the reason for this is if you do your GRE earlier, that leaves you more time to work on building your profile, right? So, towards the end of your engineering, say your third or fourth year, you can work on getting really good internships, on projects, on really solidifying your profile. So the earlier you take your GRE, the better it will be for you in the long run. And as for your second question, we will answer that towards the end of the webinar, right? Okay, now the next thing that we're going to look at is how difficult is it to score a 330 plus on the GRE? The answer, honestly, guys, is it's not very difficult. Now, a 330 score is very rare, and you probably only know a handful of people who got this score. But that doesn't mean that it's difficult. Just because it's rare doesn't mean it's tough, okay? The honest reason why we don't see many test takers with such high scores is because honestly, they just don't know how to get there.
Whoa, 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 that's a great thing, Sana. It's not difficult, guys. You can also get it if you prepare it well. So the next thing is, many test takers believe that it is nearly impossible for them to score a high on GRE, that they resort to scoring averagely and end up applying to normal universities. Guys, don't lose hope. You can retake the GRE also and you can apply in a high university. That believes that it is enough that you can get a 300 plus score and somehow get into admission for a decent university. That's the problem, the belief. You should believe in yourself, guys. You can cope up to a good university once you have all the three skills. That is strategy, knowledge, and one more thing is skills. Sorry for the misinterpretation. If you don't believe, you will never get a 330 plus score in a GRE and you will never will. A famous saying goes like, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you can write. So guys, think as much as possible. You can achieve your score 1. So if you one of those think they can't do it, this guide is for you.
Sadiq, we will be talking about how you can start your GRE preparation. Hang in there, we're moving towards that in the webinar, right? Okay, now the first thing, guys, before you can get started on studying, you need to know what resources to use, right? So we've divided the resources into essential resources, recommended, and optional. Now, there are multiple resources available today, online and offline. So it's perfectly understandable that there is a lot of confusion, right? So here is a detailed recommendation on what you should be studying if you want a high score on the GRE. But keep in mind that this is just a recommendation from us. So feel free to make changes as you see fit, right? Now, the first thing we're going to look at is the recommended resources. The first one, of course, is, essential. ETS official guide. I'm sure all of you know that this is the beginner's Bible for the GRE, hands down, because it was written by the makers of the actual GRE test. This book covers all the basic concepts that you will come across on the test, and it also includes a few example questions for each topic, no? So the questions that appear in these two tests are extremely valuable because they are taken from previous GRE tests. Now, along with the official guide, there are also quant and verbal guides, right? So these are dedicated guides for both math and verbal. They have several practice problems, but more importantly, they also contain lots of strategies and tips that will come in handy during the test. So if you think you need it, go ahead and buy these two guides as well, along with the official guide.
The third important essential guide is ETS Power Prep software. The Power Prep is a set of 2 free practice sets provided by ETS, the makers of GRE. Since it is a creator themselves who are providing these practice tests, the Power Prep is by far the best source of practice you can get for the GRE. The questions on the Power Prep are those that have previously appeared in the real GRE test. so you can exactly know what kind of questions to expect on the test day, and also know how difficult it is going to be.
Okay, so Ayush has a question, Sahil. He wants to know what significance a 330 plus score holds when you're applying to the Ivy League. So that's a very good question, Ayush. And now the thing about Ivy Leagues are obviously they're some of the best universities in the world. So they look for students who have outstanding profiles. So a 330 plus score will definitely help you stand out. But if the rest of your profile is not extremely solid, then that will not be enough, right? Simply having a 330 plus score will not be enough to get you to the Ivy League. But I'll tell you this, if your overall profile is very strong, you might not even need a 330 plus score, because I'll give you an example. So I know two students personally, Rohit Poduri and Sahil Gupta. Rohit got a 326 score and he got into Columbia University, which I'm sure you know is an Ivy League. And Sahil Gupta got a 324, if I'm not mistaken, and he got into University of Pennsylvania, which is also an Ivy League. So a 330 plus score will definitely help, because it will help you stand out, but it is not enough. You need to have a really great profile. Okay, now that we've answered that, let's move on to the recommended resources. Now, for most of you that are looking for a 330 plus score, the resources that we've mentioned above will not be enough, right? You're going to be looking for additional sources to answer questions and for practice problems, right? So here are a couple of our recommendations. There is a great GRE test prep app and the Ultimate Vocabulary Prep app, both available for free on the Play Store. If you check it out, you'll notice that they're the highest ranked apps in the Play Store in these particular categories. So you know for a fact they're absolutely great. They're also a lot of fun. So do go ahead, download these apps and use them to start your GRE prep. All right, let's move on to the third category, which is optional resources.
The optional resources are Word Power Made Easy. Word Power Made Easy by Norman Lewis is easily one of the most popular books on the vocabulary in the world. If you have 2 to 3 months for your prep, though you should pick this book up, it will change the approach of learning words and equip you with new ways to tackle the vocabulary. Vocabulary is quite tough, guys, so make sure you make it easily by preparing through Word.
Made easy. Perfect. Now the next one, of course, is Barron's 333 high frequency word. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this. It is a very popular list of high frequency words. And once you have mastered our app, that is the Ultimate Vocabulary Prep lists, this should be the next stop to test yourself, if you have the time though. Only once you have completed all 333 words from this list, should you move on to other additional lists. Now, guys, a couple of you have been asking, y'all want to know what a solid study plan looks like, right? So we're actually going to show you what a study plan should look like,
And
just
how Galvanize will help you in making your study plan personalized. This is an extraordinary feature provided by Galvanize. So based on a diagnostic test, we are gonna make a personalized study plan for you, which if you follow, you will get guaranteed 330 plus score.
all right. So you should be able to see it on your screens right about now. Now, if you look at this, you can see this is what the study plan looks like. But before I show you that, let's take a look at how your study plan is devised, right? So for this particular student, the first thing you have to do is take a GRE diagnostic test. So all of you that have not started your GRE prep yet, please do the first thing and take a GRE diagnostic test. We have one available on our website and it's completely free for you as well. I'll show you what the diagnostic test looks like. This student scored a 311 out of 340. If you scroll down further, you can see that there is a breakdown of his performance across each question type. So for instance, if you click on this, you can see that out of 8 reading comprehension questions, he got 50% wrong and 50% right. Similarly for Quant, if you click on quantitative comparison, you can see he got 86% right and 14% wrong. If you scroll down, there's more analytics available, namely, okay, yeah, this is actually very interesting. You can see how many questions he answered, how much time he took, and how much he scored in total. If you scroll down further, you can also see exactly how much time he spent on each question and how much time other test takers have spent on the same question. So this will give you an idea of how you compare with other GRE test takers in the world, right? You have the same analytics for the quant as well. You can see how much time you spent, how much time the other people spent, sorry. So basically, this very comprehensive breakdown will tell you where you stand right now, and that will help you pinpoint your strengths and weaknesses so your study plan can be devised accordingly, right? So I'm going to show you now quickly what the study plan will look like. Just give me a second. Yeah, perfect. All right, so this was Sahil Gupta that I was talking about, who received his Ivy League admit to University of Pennsylvania, by the way, guys. Okay, let me scroll down so I can show you. Yeah. So this is the study plan that was based on the results of his diagnostic test. You can see for each day he has a particular task that he has to do. He can, once he finishes it, he can mark it as completed, or he can decide that he wants to do it later. He can also decide that he doesn't want to do this. So there is flexibility in the study plan. And quickly, before we go back, I also want to show you this because it's really fun. You can set your target score before you start preparing, and throughout the course period, you can see how you progress. So this particular person is currently at 166, but he wants to be at a 170. If you scroll down, you can see the lessons over here. You can see how many tests he has taken. Similarly, for verbal, you can see his target score. You can see where he's at. You can see the lessons. Let me quickly show you what the lessons will look like. Right. So for GRE verbal reason, they are broken down according to question type as well as subject. And if you click on this, you will be taken further to the lessons. Right. All right. I think that's about enough for now. You also have 5 mock tests at the very beginning that will be spread out evenly through your course. All right. So I hope this answers the question for those of you that wanted to know what a study plan should look like and also how you should go about designing your study plan, right? Now let's head back to the presentation. Now, I hope you remember that I said at the very beginning that we have something very exciting for you, right? So the exciting news that we have for you, okay, I want to get there before I tell you about it. So just give me a second while we move forward to the slide that we were on. Okay, we're nearly there. Yep. Okay, so the exciting news that we have for you, of course, is exclusive for our webinar attendees today. We have a very special offer that awaits you. We will send you a link in the chat box right now. Use this link to claim your offer after the webinar ends, right?
So guys, there are more than 100 attendees and we have only 15 coupons for it. So make sure you grab it before anyone else grab this and make your GRE prep the best prep in the world.
All right. And keep in mind, guys, grab it after the webinar ends because we do have more information to share with you. Okay, I see a couple of you have more questions about the GRE study plan. I'd like to talk more about it, but I do want to go on with the webinar. So for those of you that would still like to know more information, let me ask you if you would like to just give me a second while I pull up a question for you on your screens. Okay, I'm looking for it. Just give me a second, guys. I'm looking for a question that I can pull up on your screens. Right. I'm so sorry it took us a while, but yeah. So for those of you that are sending us, messages in the chat box that y'all would like to know more about us or about our platform, do let us know if you want to talk to a Galvanize GRE expert who can let you know in as much detail as you need. Wow, I see a lot of connect with them coming in. That's wonderful. For all of you that are saying y'all would like to connect, if y'all would like a call right away, do also feel free to drop your number in the chat box and we will have our GRE advisors give you a call back as soon as the webinar is done. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to close this so we can quickly move on. Okay, I still see a lot of responses rolling in, guys. I'm going to close this in exactly 10 seconds.
Elder Joy, you will be called right back after the webinar. So make sure your phone is in a reachable mode so that we can connect with you easily and much faster.
All right. Okay, guys, I'm going to close this poll so we can get right back to the webinar. Okay. So let's jump right in and take a look at an ideal study plan for a 330 plus in 90 days. Okay. Like I said, of course, this can be tailored. If you have less time, you can tailor this based on your needs. So early on, guys, like I said, first things first, you have to take a diagnostic test. The test results will tell you your strengths and weaknesses. And more importantly, like I showed you, it will also tell you the question types that you struggle with. So for example, even if you know the subject matter for ratio and proportion, but you find yourself constantly making mistakes when it is asked in numeric entry type questions, then this knowledge will help you pinpoint exactly what needs working on, right? So first things first, take a diagnostic test. Now for quant, you want to get started with arithmetic and algebra. We ask you to prioritize this because more questions are asked from these subjects. Data interpretation as well. Now, data interpretation is very important, and these questions typically come in batches. So you usually get 2 to 3 questions that are related to the same graph or chart. So do all the questions that you see in one go while you're in the group.
Next thing, guys, verbal. Text completion with 1 blank, that is TC1, and text completion with 2 blanks, that is TC2. When you are done, check all your answers, include any new word in your flashcard decks. For any question you got right, skip that explanation to verify what you have got right for right reason. For any question you got wrong, read the explanation thoroughly and take notes in your journal on the concept you didn't understand and anything about the question format that skipped you out. Keeping track on your mistakes can help you consciously to avoid them.
And of course, guys, like I said, if one of the Galvanize features is you can receive a personalized study plan based on your schedule and target score. You will also get regular reminders to stick to your study plan and complete tasks on time. Now let's move on to the second section, right? Now the next thing you need to do for quant, of course, is no, actually, this is for both quant and verbal, guys. You need to take a lot of section tests, okay? Many students may struggle to get the score that they dream of. And the most obvious reason is that they don't take their GRE practice tests very seriously. Now, this is a good time to really emphasize that for verbal, you need more skill than knowledge, okay? Because I'll tell you why. Now, for quant, obviously, you need to brush up on concepts like arithmetic or geometry. You need to learn formula. You need to know when to apply these formula. But for verbal, there are no such formula. There are no concepts that you need to learn, right? You need to get comfortable vocabulary and you need to get comfortable with reading and really understanding the logic of passages. So for verbal, there is no syllabus, which is why we really emphasize practicing as much as you can. Now, coming back to quant, you need to brush up on geometry and data analysis. And for verbal, by this point, you should be comfortable enough to tackle TC3 questions, which is text completion with 3 blanks and sentence equivalence. Of course, guys, it needs to be mentioned that from day one, you need to be learning words. So we usually recommend that you aim for learning at least 20 new words a day. If you can do more than that, great. If you can't, 20 words is a good amount. And every next day, revise the words that you learned the previous day so that you're not simply learning and forgetting them, right? You need to make sure that you constantly remember what it is you study.
So guys, in the second month, how Galvanize will help you, the most common features, but it is quite different from others. Post questions on any topic and get your doubt clarified anytime, anywhere, within 2 working days. Study at your convenience, access the content online anytime, anywhere. View automatic analysis. That's the extraordinary features that Galvanize provide. After every test, know your strengths and weaknesses.
All right. Now let's move on to perhaps the most important thing that you will have to do, which is your mock tests. So, guys, you have to take a full length mock test. As much as possible, try to imitate the GRE conditions. Okay. So, this means that you only take a 1 minute break between sections and only a 10-minute break between sections 3 and 4. Sorry. Like I mentioned already, building your test taking stamina is extremely important. So don't give yourself very long breaks because you need to get used to sitting there for a long time. Also note how your sleep affects your work. Okay, note how certain foods affects your work. So for instance, if you find that on a day when you eat a lot of rice, you're sleepier, you're not able to answer questions, then you know that on the day of the GRE, you should probably not eat too much rice, right? So these are the little things that you need to make note of so that on the actual test taking day, you are extremely comfortable and you're able to focus for 4 hours straight. Now, let's talk a little bit about AWA, right? For AWA, we usually recommend that you go to the ETS GRE pool. You will find essay topics mentioned there, and these are the topics that will most likely make it to your exam. So read these topics, write your essays in a word processing program. Okay, give yourself only 30 minutes, a strict time limit. Now once you write these essays, what do? If you have a friend that is very good at English and very comfortable writing essays, ask them to read your essays and to give you feedback if they are willing to. Of course, if you have the time and can afford to do this, you could also hire a tutor. Make sure the tutor assesses your essays and gives you constructive feedback on your essays.
The next thing is verbal, reading comprehension and critical reasoning. Some RC questions are standalone single question with a short paragraph, and sometimes a group of 2 or 3 come with a longer passage. Make sure you finish all the questions associated with the paragraph on one sitting. Make sure you complete it in one sitting, guys. You don't have much time on it.
All right. Now let's move on to very exciting tips and tricks. So these are tried and tested tips and tricks, guys, that we have collected over years and from dealing with plenty of students that scored a 330 plus. So the first tip is start early. Start as early as you can, guys. It doesn't matter if you're still a student, if you're a working professional, start studying as soon as you decide you want to study abroad. Now, if you have not decided when to take the GRE, you should do that right away because the GRE is a skill-based exam and skills take time to develop. So it's important that you give yourself as much time as you can.
Next thing is build your stamina. As you might have already been told several times, the GRE is a test of endurance. For most students, it is probably the first time in your life that you are sitting through a 4 hours test in front of a computer. Guys, it's quite lazy, but you can manage if you want to score high. It is grueling experience which you must get to use before the test day. For this, you must make it a point to take as many practice tests as you can in front of the computer. No paper tests. People, please use computers since that's how you're going to write your actual test. The more you practice, the more luckier you are.
That's actually a very good point, Sahil. Okay, now the 2-minute rule, guys. The 2-minute rule is very simple. It basically means that you should never spend more than 2 minutes on a single question on the GRE. If after 2 minutes you still can't figure out a solution, either start guessing or figure out a different way of answering that. But be sure that you wrap it up in 2 minutes or else it will really hurt your chances of scoring high on the GRE. Because you can't let one tough question impact your entire time management.
Maintain an error log. Error logs are probably one of your best friends during the GRE prep. If you try and use the error log effectively for a while, you will be able to see a distinctive pattern of mistakes you make and the areas you make them in. Believe it or not, the error log will be your best teacher. It is quite easy to create an error log. An error log. It can be anything, but an Excel file would be the most preferred option since it is easier to not only use but also to make changes in the future.
All right. Also, guys, like we keep emphasizing, always take full length practice tests, including the full 60 minutes of the AWA section. A lot of students neglect the AWA section, but you will find that when you're applying to universities, they are going to look at your AWA score. So please do not neglect that. Finally, guys, you have to learn to pace. By this, we mean that you need to be able to move through questions quickly, but also answer them correctly. You have to learn to speed read. Okay, you have to solve a lot of 330 plus questions. By that we mean not only quantity but also quality. So make sure you start with the easier questions, but then you move on to solve more difficult questions. Never leave any question unanswered. And of course, like we said, eat and drink healthy. You will find that it actually makes a huge difference. And until next Wednesday, this is Sana and Sahil signing out.